Think about it for a moment. How many times in a day do your thoughts throw you off balance? Are you worried, frustrated, even angry about what's going on in your head? Thoughts can be your best allies, but they can also be your worst enemies. You wake up, and suddenly your brain is filled with worries about the past or fears about the future. Sound familiar? It's a vicious circle, but there is a way to break it. The Stoics, the sages of the past who lived more than 2,000 years ago, already knew how to tame their minds. Their principles are so practical that they can be applied today. And it is these principles that we will talk about in this video. Watch on, and you'll learn 3 powerful techniques to help you get your thoughts under control, reduce the chaos in your head, and find inner peace. In the modern world, we are constantly in a stream of thoughts. They come and go, sometimes so fast that we don't even notice them. However, when these thoughts become negative or disturbing, they can take over our minds, creating internal chaos. Thoughts about the past, the future, fears, doubts, all of these can create suffering, even when the reality is not so threatening. And that's where Stoicism comes in, a philosophy that teaches us not only to accept these thoughts, but also to work with them properly. Why do we suffer because of our thoughts? The Stoics believe that most of our suffering is not a real experience, but only a reflection of our consciousness. We experience more in our imagination than in reality. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in our imagination than in reality." This may seem paradoxical because when we experience anxiety or fear, it seems real, even physically tangible. However, in reality, we often worry about things that have not happened or are unlikely to happen. Anxiety is a mental image, an echo of the past or future, not a reality. If we could see these thoughts simply as clouds passing through our minds, instead of getting caught up in them, we would free ourselves from suffering. Accepting thoughts as the first step to liberation. Accepting your thoughts does not mean submitting to them or giving them up. It is not passivity or indifference. It is an active recognition that thoughts come and they are not real facts. Acceptance is the realization that we cannot control what comes into our minds, but we can control how we react to it. If you are constantly trying to banish unpleasant thoughts or fight them, you are only deepening your internal conflict. It's like trying to push water away in a stream. The more you try, the more you get swallowed up by the stream. The key in this process is to understand that thoughts do not determine our reality. They only reflect our experiences, emotions, or attitudes. When you accept your thoughts for what they are, you stop putting yourself in a situation to fight them, which significantly reduces your stress level. This is the first step to calmness and inner freedom. Acceptance as a way to open the door to peace. The Stoics said that most of human suffering arises from the desire to avoid what cannot be changed. If we could accept unpleasant moments as a part of life, we would get rid of a lot of experiences. Acceptance is about being able to see these thoughts and let them pass without clinging to them. If we could just allow ourselves to be in what is without the need to change the situation every time, we could live in peace. Acceptance doesn't mean that we have to be happy with every thought that comes into our head or every situation that happens around us. It is simply recognizing that a thought or situation is what it is at the moment, and we cannot change it right now. But we can change our reaction to it. Thoughts are not you. It is important to realize that we are not our thoughts. They are just waves in the ocean of our mind. And just as you are not a wave in the ocean, you are not your thoughts. When you start to see them that way, you will be able to take control of them. This means that you will stop identifying with every thought that appears in your head. Every thought is just a signal that your mind generates, but it does not define you. Once you realize this, you will feel relieved because you will no longer feel powerless in the fight against thoughts. How does acceptance help reduce suffering? When we accept our thoughts, we stop asking them questions like, why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling this? Or what's wrong with me? Instead, we start asking simple questions. What thoughts am I having right now? What is my attitude toward them? This allows us to see that thoughts are not facts, but simply clouds that pass through our minds. They have no power over us unless we allow them to have that power. When you accept your thoughts, you don't feel the need to run away from them. You allow yourself to experience them and realize that they have no power over you. And this gives you peace. You stop to feel the moment and return to what is important right now, without letting your thoughts take over your emotional state. We suffer more in our imagination than in reality. Let's take a specific example. Imagine that you're worried about an important event, say, a job interview. You're constantly running through different scenarios in your head. What could go wrong? Whether you'll give the right answers, whether you'll look incompetent. And this thought takes over, making you feel anxious and even physically uncomfortable. But what happens when you stop and ask yourself, is any of this really happening right now? Or am I just imagining the situation? In fact, most of what you are experiencing may not be happening at all. You're worrying about something that might not even happen. And even if something goes wrong, it won't be the end of the world. You realize that the suffering from imaginary situations is greater than from the events themselves. Therefore, instead of wasting energy worrying, you decide to accept the situation as it is and focus on what you can do here and now. One simple but powerful way to control your thoughts is to write them down. It may seem trivial, but this method helps you see your thoughts from a different perspective, allowing you to realize that they are not reality, but only our perceptions. Write down everything that comes to your mind. Fears, worries, doubts, insecurities. Just put them down on paper. This will allow you to release thoughts from your head instead of keeping them inside. When you write down your thoughts, you give yourself the opportunity to see them from the outside, to assess whether they're a real threat or just imaginary. Often we experience more in our imagination than in reality, and this process helps to reduce their impact. After you have written down your negative thoughts, pay attention to whether they are a real problem or just an imaginary fear. Ask yourself if there are specific facts to support these thoughts, or if they're just worry that has arisen as a result of stress. For example, if you think, I won't be able to complete the task on time, ask yourself, are there any real signs that I won't be able to do it, or is it just fear? By writing down your thoughts, you separate yourself from them and get a chance to look at them more objectively. This allows you to reduce their emotional impact. When you see that your experiences are not as scary as they seemed in your head, you will be able to control them. This practice also allows you to identify patterns in your thoughts, such as whether there are recurring themes that cause stress or anxiety. This will allow you to focus on what's really important and not let unnecessary worries take up your energy. By writing down your thoughts every day, you will gradually learn to realize that most of them are not real, but merely products of your imagination, and you will be able to better manage your inner state. Separation of thoughts and actions. In Stoicism, much attention is paid to the concept of dividing things into those that depend on us and those that do not. This is a fundamental idea that Epictetus often emphasized. He said, "It is not what happens to us, but how we treat it that matters." In this context, he emphasized the importance of controlling one's own actions and attitude to events, rather than trying to control external circumstances. Epictetus and many other Stoics believe that there are two main types of things in our lives. Those things that depend on us are thoughts, our reactions, our actions, our beliefs, and our inner state. What does not depend on us? External circumstances, actions of other people, the past, and the future. This concept allows us to free ourselves from stress and anxiety because it focuses attention on what we have influence over and helps us to let go of control over what is beyond our control. What is dependent and independent of us? The first part of this concept focuses on understanding what we can control. Our thoughts and actions are what is under our control. These two aspects of life form the basis of our inner world. Thoughts are internal processes that occur in our minds. We cannot always control what thoughts appear in our minds, but we have full control over whether we give them meaning and whether we allow them to influence our emotions and behavior. Actions are our deeds and decisions. They are entirely up to us. At any time, we can choose how to react to events, how to act in a particular situation, or reserve the right to exercise self-control. At the same time, external circumstances are something we cannot change. For example, weather, actions of other people, social, economic, or political conditions. We cannot influence these factors, and therefore wasting emotional energy on changing them makes no sense. The Epictetus emphasized that we cannot control everything that happens around us, but we can always control how we react to these circumstances. This is the key idea of Stoicism, to be calm and reasonable even when everything is changing around us. Why is it important to understand this division? In our daily lives, we often encounter situations that cause stress and anxiety. Many of these situations arise because we are trying to change things that are out of our control. For example, we may worry about what someone will think of us or how the economy will develop. However, these things are beyond our control, and worrying about them only creates additional stress. By separating what is in our control from what is out of our control, we are able to focus on what we can change. This allows us to let go of the emotional burden of trying to control things that are out of our control. Instead of wasting energy on things that cannot be changed, we can direct it to what is really in our power, our thoughts and actions. Control over thoughts. Our thoughts are something we can control at any given moment. While we cannot always control what we think, we can choose how we feel about those thoughts. Negative thoughts are often a source of stress and anxiety, so it is important to develop the ability to identify them and let them go. We can decide whether to allow our thoughts to affect our mood and behavior, or to ignore them. When we accept that not every thought is true and that we don't have to be in control of every thought, we free ourselves from many emotional problems. For example, if you think, "This won't work, I'm not capable of it," you can choose to stop believing it and replace it with a more positive thought, such as, "It's hard, but I can learn from my mistakes." This decision allows you to control your own emotions and reactions. Control over actions. All our actions are our decisions. They depend entirely on us. In every situation, we have a choice, whether to act in accordance with our principles and values or to let our emotions guide our actions. Stoicism teaches that it is important to control your actions without giving in to temptations or negative emotions. For example, when you find yourself in a stressful situation, you have a choice, whether to react aggressively or to calmly think about the situation and find a solution. Your actions are what you can control at every moment. They not only affect your environment, but also determine your inner harmony. Focus on the present moment. In today's world, where information is constantly coming from all sides and the pace of life is frantic, we often find ourselves trapped in our thoughts about the past or the future. We may dwell on mistakes that have already happened or worry about events that have not yet occurred. However, as Marcus Aurelius said, "Live in the present, for it is the only one that exists." These words reflect one of the key ideas of Stoicism, the importance of focusing on the present moment. This is the only thing we can really influence, so every moment, every breath, and every action should be important to us. Past and future as sources of stress. Worrying about the past and future takes away our energy and affects our emotions. This does not mean that you should ignore your history or not plan for the future, but it is important to realize that the past cannot be changed, and the future is only a theoretical possibility that may not materialize. We often revise our mistakes by self-critically evaluating past actions. We may think about how we should have acted differently or how we could not have avoided trouble. However, these thoughts usually only lead to feelings of regret or guilt and do not help to change the situation. The future often causes fear and anxiety because we cannot predict it with certainty. Fear of the unknown or the fear that something will go wrong can paralyze us and prevent us from acting in the moment. Planning is important, but immersing ourselves in possible future scenarios can interfere with decision-making and action today. The nature of the present moment. The present moment is the only reality we can experience. In every moment, life passes through us, and it is only through the present that we can realize change. It is here and now that all important events take place, not in our heads, where we rethink the past or worry about the future. The Stoics teach us to appreciate this moment because it is where all our power is. No matter what the situation looks like from the outside, we have a choice of how to react to it. If we focus only on the past or the future, we lose the opportunity to act effectively in the present. Marcus Aurelius often wrote in his meditations about the importance of the present moment. In his book Meditations, he repeatedly mentioned that people's actions and thoughts are determined by how they relate to the present. If we constantly worry about what has happened or what will happen, we will not be able to focus on what we can change now. How to be present in the moment. There are several ways to help us focus on the present. One of them is the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being fully present in the moment, focusing on what is happening right now, not judging or comparing. For example, during any activity, whether it's a walk in the fresh air, work, or even a simple conversation with a person, try to pay attention to every moment. Can you feel the ground under your feet? Do you have a specific smell around you? What sounds are there? Such small practices help you get involved in the moment instead of trying to solve all the problems in your head. Another useful method is the five senses technique we discussed earlier. When stressed or immersed in thoughts about the past or future, you can quickly go through these 5 questions to bring yourself back to the present moment. This allows you to relieve emotional stress and restore clarity of thought. The importance of conscious actions in the present. We can only influence what is happening now, and therefore Stoicism encourages us to act reasonably and focused in the present. In any decision, we have the opportunity to determine our reaction. Instead of being distracted by thoughts of the future or worrying about the past, it is important to act proactively while maintaining inner peace. For example, if you're faced with a problem, it is important to act on what you know now. You can't change what happened, and you can't predict exactly what will happen in the future, but you can choose what to do right now. This will give you a sense of control and help you act effectively. Accepting the uncertainty of the future. The nature of the future is uncertainty. However, it is precisely in this uncertainty that our freedom lies. We can't predict what will happen, but we can adapt and respond to any circumstances while remaining calm and determined. Stoicism teaches that life is a set of unpredictable events, and our task is to adapt to these changes, not to try to control or avoid them. If we constantly focus on the future, we will not be able to enjoy the moment. Therefore, it is important to accept uncertainty as a part of life and use every situation for personal development. Be open to new opportunities and the changes they can bring, leaving no room for fear or anxiety. Practicing the present moment in everyday life. To make focusing on the present moment natural, you need to practice it every day. Simply observing what is happening around you without judgment or rushing is a step towards developing mindfulness. Even in difficult situations, we can find opportunities to focus on what we can control. The Stoics believe that it is through acceptance of the present moment that we can find peace. Their philosophy helps us to understand that although we cannot change the past or know exactly what will happen in the future, we always have the right to choose how to act now. And this gives us inner strength and harmony. When you catch yourself immersed in negative thoughts, ask yourself, what can I do right now? Imagine a situation where you are facing a difficult work project or personal problem. Your thoughts begin to swirl around negative scenarios. You start doubting your abilities, worrying about how things might not work out, and this prevents you from acting. You may have been running through possible failures in your head, or you may have felt fear of the future. And now you are in a situation where your worries are drowning out your ability to solve problems. This is the moment when you should stop and ask yourself a simple but very powerful question. What can I do right now? This question shifts the focus from what you can't control, the future, uncertainty, external circumstances, to what you can change and control right now. If your thoughts revolve around the fact that you won't be able to complete the project, think about it. What can I do right now to get closer to completing it? It might be as simple as making an action plan, taking the first step, or even asking for help. At this point, you're focusing again on what's happening in the here and now, and it gives you a sense of control. Instead, if you find yourself worrying about the future and can't calm down, ask yourself, what can I do now to start solving the problem? This will allow you to take real steps and feel that you are not powerless in the face of difficulties, but are able to act even in difficult situations. This question helps you to return to what is within your control and get rid of the feeling of paralysis that often occurs when you are too immersed in negative thoughts. You move from abstract worries to practical actions, and this gives you the strength to keep moving forward. Practical advice. Try the five senses technique. What are you seeing, hearing, feeling, touching, and tasting right now? It will bring you back to the present moment. When you feel like your thoughts are starting to spin out of control, you are feeling stressed or anxious, one of the most effective techniques to bring you back to the present moment is the five senses. This simple but powerful exercise will help you focus on what's happening now and reduce your emotional stress. Ask yourself, what do I see now? Pay attention to the environment. Look at colors, shapes, details that may have been invisible before. What do I hear now? Stop for a few seconds to listen to the sounds around you. Is it street noise, music, or silence? What do I feel on my body now? Pay attention to physical sensations. Is there tension in your muscles? Are you comfortable in your current state? What am I touching right now? Focus on what you are touching: objects, the fabric of your clothes, or the surface you are interacting with. What am I tasting right now? Even if you're not eating, you can pay attention to the aftertaste left by the food or just how you feel in your mouth. This technique helps to switch attention from mental processes to direct physical sensations, which helps to calm the mind and regain control over your emotions. So, to take control of your thoughts, you need to accept them, separate thoughts and actions, and focus on the present moment. These are the basic steps that will help reduce the impact of negative experiences on your life. Accepting your thoughts helps reduce their emotional impact. Separating thoughts and actions allows you to focus on real steps, and focusing on the present moment brings you back to what is important and achievable right now. Remember that you are not your thoughts. You are your actions. And as Marcus Aurelius said, we become what we do every day. The more you practice controlling your thoughts, the stronger and more determined you become in your actions. Shape yourself with daily practices, and you will see how your attitude to life changes, how the fear of uncertainty disappears, and you become the master of your thoughts and decisions. Share in the comments which of these tips is most useful to you. Which one has changed your approach to thought control? Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell so you don't miss new videos. Together, we will move towards inner harmony. See you soon.